Aben from the Department of Psychology. In this very video, I'll be discussing on the chapter Variation in Psychological Attributes, which you will see in chapter 1 of your psychology textbook. I will be discussing the topics which is mentioned here, individual differences in human functioning. Then we will be discussing about the theories of intelligence. Under this, we have two different types of approaches, the psychometric approach and the information processing approach. In this psychometric approach, we will see 5 different types of intelligent theory, and under the information processing approach, we have 3 different intelligent theory. Then comes individual differences in intelligence. Then we will be discussing about the culture and the intelligence from the Western and from the Indian tradition. Then the last one will be the creativity and the intelligence. Each of this topic I'll be explaining with the help of a PowerPoint, in which you will have a clear understanding to follow my explanation as I explain one after the other. In my first slide, I'll be explaining about the individual differences in human functioning. Individual differences in human functioning. When we try to discuss this particular topic, individual differences in human functioning, before we go further, let us first try to understand what is variation and what is attributes. Here, variation simply means differences and attributes means a quality or a characteristic of a person or of an individual. So, in simple words, for example, if somebody asks you, what is your best attributes? You can even say, my best attributes is my willingness to help others. So, here, this individual variation or individual attributes is all about the differences that we have in terms of our quality or in terms of the personality or the character that we individual have as a human being. So when we look around the world that we live or the environment or the surrounding where we are born and brought up, we see lots of differences in every individual. Even among the siblings, we find lots of variation in us in terms of our personality. Maybe some of us, even in terms of our temperament, some of us we are very aggressive, some are very submissive, or maybe when we look around our physical appearance, we can see some of us we are very tall. Even in terms of skin color, we can see lots of variations in us. And these differences in us makes us who we are and makes us special in our own way. So, in simple words, individual differences means it is all about our distinctiveness and the differences or the variations that we have in terms of our character or maybe in terms of our behavior. Psychologists, they believe that our behaviors are influenced by our personal trait. Personal trait here means the internal factor which is there within us. This is known as trait approach, which means like many a times the personality or the behavior that we display in a given situation is very much influenced by the internal factor that is within us. This is from trait approach. Again, when we talk about the situationist perspective, they believe that the behaviors of an individual are very much influenced by the situational factor, that is the external factor, also known as situationism. In simple words, from a situationist perspective, they believe that whatever behavior that a human being display in a given situation is very much influenced by the external factor or by the maybe by the circumstances or to the environment to where he or she is exposed to. Theories of intelligence. Under these theories of intelligence, we will be studying different theory of intelligence that falls under 2 types of approaches. The first one is the psychometric approach and the second one is the information processing approach. Before we go further to the next slide, let us first try to understand what is psychometric approach and the information processing approach. Psychometric approach. It is the field of study that concerned with theory and technique involved for psychological measurement. Here, psychological measurement means example can be measurement of knowledge, measurement of human abilities, attitudes, personality traits, and many more. In simple terms, we can understand that psychometric approach is a field of study that primarily have a concern in order to study the differences that lies between individuals. Under this psychometric approach, we will be studying 5 different theories of intelligence. Then come information processing approach. It simply describes the process used in intellectual reasoning and problem solving, which means information processing simply means the kind of knowledge or the components or the steps that are required in order to solve a given problem. Under this information processing approach, we will be studying 3 different theories of intelligence. Psychometric approach. Under this psychometric approach, as discussed in the earlier slide, we will be discussing 5 different theories of intelligence. The first one is the unifactor theory and the second one is the two-factor theory. Unifactor theory, in other words, can also be known as one-factor theory. It was introduced by Alfred Binet and he was the first one to introduce the intelligence test. According to him, he considered that all the abilities of an individual is reduced to one general intelligence known as common sense. And this common sense we use in our day-to-day life activities in order to solve to any given problem that we face in our daily activities in any type of given environment. Then comes two-factor theory. It was introduced by Charles Spearman in the year 1927 and he was considered to be the father of factor analysis. According to him, intelligence consists of general factor and the specific factor. General factor means the mental abilities or the capability of an individual in order to deal with any type of given problems. And this general factor, it is through heredity or through genetic, which cannot be changed. It remains unchanged and it is very static. And it cannot be improved even through education or even through training. It says that if a person has a higher general factor, then it displays a higher intelligence level as well. Whereas specific factor, it focuses only to the specific ability of an individual towards a respective area. And example can be a person is good in singing or a person is good in writing. That considered as a specific ability, which means specific ability comparatively to the general factor. According to Spearman, he says that general factor is comparatively much better than the specific factor. But again, Charles Spearman considered that if a person is good in general factor, then definitely he will be good even in specific factor as well. Let us talk about the theory of primary mental abilities by Louis Thurston. According to him, he considered that intelligence consists of 7 primary mental abilities, and all these mental abilities are very much independent to one another. The first one is the verbal comprehension. It is all about grasping the meaning of words, and those who are good in this verbal comprehension, they can easily understand the concepts and the ideas. Then come numerical abilities. Numerical abilities is all about speed and also good in numbers and also in computational skills. Then comes spatial relation. It is all about space. Here, the example can be individual. They are good in visualizing patterns and forms. We can consider it as visual thinking, which means you are going for hiking where you have compass and a map. Then you started visualizing in order to reach your destination. Then come perceptual speed. It is all about speed in perceiving the details. Suppose if you have an ability of this perceptual speed, then the moment you are exposed to one particular environment, you will be very good in perceiving all the details that surrounds you. Then come word fluency. It is all about how an individual is good in using word fluently and flexibly. Then come memory. It is the ability to recall the information. Then come inductive reasoning. You will be presented with a small fact, and from that fact you will try to draw a general conclusion. So these are the 7 different type of primary mental abilities that was introduced by Louis Thurston. In this slide, we will be discussing about the hierarchical model of intelligence by Ardor Jensen and the structure of intellect model by J.B. Kelford. According to Ardor Jensen, he explains human abilities operates at 2 levels, that is level 1 associative learning and level 2 cognitive competence. In level 1 associative learning, we can see that output is equal to input, which means rote memory. Whenever we try to understand a particular topic, instead of trying to understand the concept, if we keep on memorizing it, the outcome is going to be very ineffective. We will not see any improvement in us regarding that concerned topic. In that way, we can consider that output is equal to input. Then level 2, in cognitive competence, we try to understand the concept. We try to conceptualize the topic rather than memorizing the topic. Here, we can see that our input will be multiplied or transformed where we will have an effective outcome. That is the reason why output is considered to be more than the input. Now, in structure of intellect model, it was introduced by J.B. Kelford, and here we will see 3 different dimensions: operations, contents, and products. According to understand these 3 operation, contents, and products, let us try to understand with the help of a student. A student is going to appear an exam. So here, operations, let us consider that the operations is the student. What the respondent is going to do. Here the respondent is the student, and what are the things that he is going to do or how he is going to prepare for his exam falls under the operation. He might try to recall the bus memory, or he might try to recall the information which was being provided during the normal lecture in the classroom, and it depends upon how he operates it, how the respondent does it. Then goes to the contents. In the contents, the child or the students will now try to utilize all the information that he or she has. Here it talks about the nature or the material of the information that the respondent is going to utilize. He might use visual content, he might even use auditory content in order to try to collect the information that he has received in the past days before he writes for the exam. Then come the products. This is the 3rd dimension. Here it refers to the form in which the information is going to process. After collecting all the information, after deciding what are the instrument or the materials that the student is going to use now in the content, after deciding everything, he is now going to process all the information in the products. So with this, we come to the end of the psychometric approach. Information processing approach. In this information processing approach, we will be discussing 3 different theories of intelligence. In this slide, we will be discussing the theory of multiple intelligence by Howard Gardner. This is the first theory that comes under the information processing approach. According to Howard Gardner, he believes that intelligence is not a single entity, but rather we have different types of intelligence that is there in us. And each of these different types of intelligence, they are very much independent to each other, and that is how they come together and correlate or interact with one another and work together to find a solution to a problem in our day-to-day activity. Now let me explain what is linguistic intelligence. Linguistic intelligence, in short, it is all about the skills that is involved in using language. Here, the individual is very much gifted in terms of using language fluently and flexibly to express his or her own feelings and thinkings. Those who are good or those who are high in this linguistic intelligence, they are known as word smart because they can use the language appropriately in an appropriate situation. Example can be poet or a writer. Then come logical mathematical intelligence. It is a skill where they use scientific thinking or they involve lots of critically analyze a given situation or in order to solve a given problem. Example can be scientists or a Nobel Prize winners. Then comes spatial intelligence. Spatial intelligence is all about the skills that is involved in forming visual imagination and the patterns. Here, the individual, those who are good in this spatial intelligence, they can create an imagination of something in their mind in order to react to any given situation. Or the best example here we can understand as an interior designer or even a kind of architect engineer or the pilots, the painters. They are all good in spatial intelligence. Then come musical intelligence. Individual, those who are very sensitive to musical rhythms and the patterns are high in this musical intelligence. They are not only sensitive to sound, but they can even create a sound. So this comes under the musical intelligence. Then bodily kinesthetic intelligence. Bodily kinesthetic intelligence is a type of intelligence where an individual can use their entire body or the whole portion of the body flexibly and creatively in order to display their ideas and their emotions. Example can be actor, the dancer, or the athletes. Then come the interpersonal intelligence. Interpersonal intelligence, here the individual is very sensitive in order to understand the behavior of other individual. They have a skill where they can understand the motives, the feelings, and the behavior of the people that is around them. Then here the example can be the psychologists, the counselors, the politicians, or the social worker. Then come the intrapersonal intelligence. Intrapersonal intelligence is a kind of intelligence where an individual is very much aware about oneself. Here, the individual will know his own strength and limitations, and knowing this knowledge, by utilizing all this knowledge, he will try to effectively relate to the other people. Example can be the philosophers or the spiritual leaders. Then come the last one is the naturalistic intelligence. The individual with high in naturalistic intelligence, they are very much sensitive towards the natural world, and this involves a kind of they are very much completely aware of the relationship they have with the nature. Example can be the farmers, the tourists, and the botanists. In this slide, we will be discussing about triage theory of intelligence and the bus model. Triage theory of intelligence was introduced by Robert Sternberg, and according to Robert Sternberg, we have three different types of intelligence. The first one is the componential intelligence, and the second one is experiential intelligence, then the third one is contextual intelligence. Let me explain the componential intelligence. This componential intelligence, in other words, is also known as analytical intelligence. Individual or person, those who are high in this componential intelligence, they critically analyze any type of given situation. Here, we will see three different types of function: acquiring of knowledge, planning, and performing. The first thing is the individual will try to acquire all the information which he needs in order to solve a given problem. Then after collecting all the information, he will start planning it. Then after planning like what are the things he is required to do, then come into performance. In performance, he will put all the plans into action. So this is known as componential intelligence. Then experiential intelligence, in other words, it is also known as creative intelligence. It is very simple to understand because here an individual, he will use the past experiences creatively in order to solve a given problem at the present scenario. Then comes the contextual intelligence. In other words, it is known as practical intelligence because an individual is very practical when it comes in terms of intelligence. Here, the reason being why it is considered as practical intelligence or contextual intelligence is the individual, those who have high in this practical intelligence, they are considered as street smartness because they can easily adjust to any type of given environment. Now let us discuss about the bus model. The bus model is considered as planning, attention arousal, or simultaneous successive model. This model, according to this model, intellectual activity involves the interdependent functioning of three neurological systems known as functional units of brain. Why it is known as arousal, attention? It is arousal, in other words, it is a stimuli, means when there is a stimuli, there is always a response. Likewise, suppose if you or I, if we don't have any interest to study, means we don't have any arousal. And when there is no arousal, we will never have attention to our studies, towards our studies. Likewise, according to the bus model, when an individual have arousal or when there is a stimuli, it will help us to focus our attention to any type of aspects to solve a given problem. Then comes simultaneous and successive processing. Simultaneous means it is all about trying to acquire an information or knowledge at the same moment, because we will, at this simultaneous, we will acquire all the knowledge and the information at the same time and therefore integrate them together in a meaningful way. Then comes the successive processing. Successive processing is all about systematically trying to process all the knowledge or the information. Here in this successive processing, if we try to recall one, it will help us or leads to recall another. Means normally we use this successive processing while learning digits, which means numbers, alphabets, and so on. Then comes planning. In this planning, here it is one of the very important features of intelligence. According to this planning, all the information after being attended or processed, we are now going to activate the plan. After getting all the resources, we will start to implement it in our day-to-day life in order to reach the target goal. So with this, we come to the end of information processing approach. Let us discuss individual differences in intelligence. In this individual differences in intelligence, I'll be explaining about the intelligence that interplay of nature and the nurture, means heredity and the environment. When we consider about the level of intelligence, many a time we question that is it because of the influence of the heredity, is it because of the genetic, or is it because of the environment to where we are exposed to. In this slide, we can see the table present here. With the help of this table, let me explain the individual differences or the correlation that is there in terms of intelligence, understanding the relationship that share between the identical twins, fraternal twins, and the sibling. Identical twins, if they are reared together, the correlation in terms of their level of intelligence is 0.90. Here, correlation means similarity. But if they are being reared apart, their level of intelligence they correlate only around 0.72. Whereas fraternal twins, if they are being reared together, their level of intelligence correlate around 0.60. On the other hand, siblings, like being born and brought up from same biological parents, kept together or stayed together, they have a level of intelligence that correlates around 0.50. But due to some circumstances, even if a child or the siblings being reared apart due to different social problems or due to different problems at home, suppose if they are being kept apart, their level of intelligence correlate only around 0.25. Studies also shows that suppose a child being adopted by another parent, here towards the earlier stage or maybe towards the initial stage, the child intelligence level will be more similar towards the biological parents rather than the adoptive parents. But gradually, slowly as the child grow in age, the study shows that the intelligence level tends to move much closer towards the adoptive parents rather than the biological parents. We can also see that environment has a huge contribution in terms of our intelligence level, because as per the studies, children those who are like from a disadvantaged home, just say that children from a poor family or from a disadvantaged home being adopted to a family with higher socioeconomic status, they exhibit a large increase in their intelligence scores, because the child will have good rich in nutrition, good family background, the child will experience good quality education. All this will contribute to increase the child's intelligence level. But on the other hand, there is evidence that environmental deprivation of will definitely have an outcome of lower intelligence. Thus, with all this study, we therefore come to a conclusion that the psychologists they have a general consensus where they says that intelligence is a product of both combination of heredity, the nature, and the environment, nurture. Culture and intelligence. When we talk about culture and intelligence, intelligence is deeply rooted in culture, because the culture and the environment where we are born and brought up contributes a lot in terms of shaping of who we are. Then when we look at the culture and intelligence, in this slide we'll be discussing about from the Western and the Indian tradition. So according to the Western tradition, the intelligence are considered to be known as the technological intelligence, because in terms of society and in terms of all the aspects of life, they are very much far technologically advanced in many things. So in such society, people are very much well versed in terms of skills. So when we talk about skills, it can be their attention span or their how they critically analyze a given situation, their performance, or maybe their achievement orientation. So intelligence tests developed in the Western tradition they normally look more precise for skills in an individual. But in contrary, in Indian tradition, we focus towards the holistic growth of an individual, where we integrate both the cognitive as well as the non-cognitive skills together. That is the reason why Indian tradition we consider the intelligence as an integral intelligence, and we focus into four different types of intelligence known as the cognitive capacity, the social competence, emotional competence, and entrepreneurial competence. Here cognitive capacity is all about our sensitivity towards a particular given context, or how we try to understand a given situation or try to solve a given problem. Then comes social competence. It's all about our respect for the society or our commitment towards our elders and towards the younger ones, and how we try to recognize other people from their perspective. Then comes emotional competence. It is all about self-recollection. It is all about monitoring oneself, how honest we are, how polite we are. So it covers in terms of emotional competence. Then comes the last one is the entrepreneurial competence. Here it talks about our commitment to do something, how patient we are, our hard work or our persistence towards kind of a call directed behavior to achieve our target goal. So with this, we come to the end of understanding the culture and intelligence from the Western and the Indian tradition. Creativity and intelligence. When we talk about creativity and the intelligence, Creativity here simply refers to the ability of an individual that enables him or her to produce new ideas in solving a problem. And this creativity can be seen in our day-to-day activities, in all the works that we do. When we try to understand the correlation that is there between the creativity and intelligence, it is more or same like it is kind of an overlapping the ideas of or the skills or abilities rather than being dependent on one another. So, in order to understand this creativity and the intelligence, let me take the example of two students in a classroom. Sunita is a kind of a student who is very good in her studies and always try to excel in her classroom. She is a rank holder, and whatever the instruction being provided by the teacher, she follows everything. But whenever she is asked to do any project work or assignment, she finds difficult to come up with her own ideas. But on the other hand, there is a student called Rita, where she is little different from Sunita. She don't have much good grade in the classroom, but no doubt whatever things or assignment or project she receives, all the time she comes up with a very creative idea, or her project will be always an innovative one, a very creative one. So with this, we can understand that Sunita is intelligent, but however, Rita is a creative person. It is found that a person with high IQ were not necessarily meant to be creative, or at the same time, creative ideas could come even from a person who does not have a high IQ. So, after understanding all these aspects of creativity and the intelligence, we can come to a certain conclusion that certain level of intelligence is necessary to be creative, but a high level of intelligence, however, does not require or does not ensure that a person would certainly be creative. With this, we come to the end of our explanation for Chapter 1, the inspiration in psychological attributes. I hope this video reaches all of you and make your study at home an enjoyable one. Till then, take care and stay safe.